Woo! What's going on, guys? Orms Forum coming at you today with our video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions 53-man roster. It's finally out. We're going to talk about the practice squad as well. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, these coaches, they've put together a squad, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the practice squad as well. Let's start off right away, guys. We'll go from offense to defense. We won't get too involved with some subjects. You never know, though, with some positions. I could be going on a rant. You never know. But I'm pretty overall, I'm pretty happy with it, especially seeing the practice squad too as well. I wanted to make this video earlier, but I really wanted to see how they were going to kind of round off the practice squad. And you guys have to remember that rosters and practice squads are subject to change. There's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of different turnover, injuries. Players can get poached off practice squads. You can protect up to a certain amount every week, like 4 a week. You know, you can only elevate 2 per week. So there's a lot of changeover, and you always have to, fill those spots up. And I think the Lions did a pretty good job here. There's nothing really that I'm too upset about. But there is some head scratchers for sure, but nothing where I'm too fired up about it in an upset way. But let's go off to the quarterbacks right away. Jared Goff, obviously QB1. Hendon Hooker, QB2 is looking like right now, obviously. No more Nate Sudfeld. They didn't even pick him up at the practice squad. I'll try to leave the practice squad guys for the end. I'll kind of throw in guys here and there. I thought Hendon Hooker was going to be QB3 on this team. Not because I think that Nate Sudfeld was better. It's just because I thought, the way Dan Campbell was talking about Nate Sudfeld and Hendon Hooker, it sounded like he was favoring more Nate Sudfeld. If you guys heard the comments, he was talking about experience. Nate Sudfeld has done this. Nate Sudfeld has done that. Hendon Hooker needs reps. He needs this. He needs that. He sees the growth in Hooker, but he never really put his full faith in him. Obviously, they released Nate Sudfeld. He's gone. Bye-bye. Hendon Hooker is QB2 at the moment, and I think he'll remain QB2. And he can learn from the scout team, practicing now, run with the twos consistently, and I think that's a good thing for Hooker. I was wrong on that call. I'm not going to apologize for it, but I was wrong on that call. I'm glad Hooker is the QB2. You always worry about your QB1 going down, though. What I worry if Goff goes down, 100%. I'm not fully trusting Hendon Hooker. I loved him coming out of college, but I think 31 other teams can pretty much say the same thing if they lose their QB1. You lose your QB1, your backup comes in. It's not a good look. It's not good for the team. He's QB2 for a reason. And I think Hooker went through some ups and downs through camp and through preseason games, but he got enough trust with Campbell, Ben Johnson, especially Mark Brunell, the quarterback's coach, where they made him quarterback 2 right now. So I'm glad Hooker he can learn from this. That's good. On the running backs, we have 4 on the roster. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Craig Reynolds, and rookie Sione Vaikai. Not surprised whatsoever about that at all. I think 4 of those guys are going to dress per week. We'll talk about guys that they signed on the practice squad, and they did pick up a couple running backs, 1 or 2 for sure that I know of. Jamar Jefferson being one of them, but we will talk about it. So they won't go into this. They won't go into games with 3 running backs. It'll be 4 or 5 guys at the least. It's kind of how the Lions been doing it for the past couple of years, especially with this regime. And I'm just talking about this regime. Campbell has loved the fullback position. That is gone now, bringing guys like Kabinda, that Daryl Daniels that they brought in before. Those guys are things of the past. Now they're going to use guys like Craig Reynolds and Sione Vaikai in those kind of like fullback moments, if you want to call that. But Reynolds and Vaikai bring special teams to the unit. So 4 will dress a week, I'm assuming. Maybe 5 at times, who knows? They can only elevate certain guys. So, but 4, perfectly fine with that. And then wide receivers, 4 on the roster at the moment. Don't panic. It's not going to be 4 per game. They're going to be addressing guys too. They picked up 3 guys, and we'll talk about them in a minute. Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, and rookie undrafted free agent Isaiah Williams. Good luck to the kid. Congratulations. He made the squad. Happy for him. He's your wide receiver 3 or 4 at the moment. You know, I know because I know Khalif Raymond, I know Dan Campbell. Khalif Raymond has a lot of special teams duties. So does Isaiah Williams. But Khalif Raymond, you know, they got him doing lots of stuff. And Campbell has come out and just said, I don't want him to be a guy that is taking 60 to 65 snaps a game. If he has to do it, that's fine, but we'd rather he not. Khalif Raymond is a solid wide receiver. He's nothing special. He's not spectacular. He's small. He runs good routes. He has good hands. He's got some speed to him. He plays special teams. He's valuable. He's not a game breaker or anything like that. Now, we talked about depth on this team with the wide receiver position for a while now. They went and signed a couple of guys. We'll talk about those 3 guys that they brought in. One of them or 2 of them are going to sound familiar to you. You guys already know, probably. Tight ends. Brought 3 of them in, obviously. Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and then Parker Hesse. James Mitchell out. He is on the practice squad. We'll talk about that. Shane Zylstra, practice squad as well too. But Parker Hesse brings a little more versatility. He can play some fullback in a pinch if they need him to play fullback. And like I just said a second ago, versatility is huge with this team. Parker Hesse went to Iowa Hawkeye, and he was a defensive end and a linebacker. So they love these type of players. They love these all-around versatile guys. And that's what Parker Hesse is. And he looked the part. He's an athletic tight end at like 6'3", 250 pounds. He can block. He's surprisingly not a bad receiver. He won the job as tight end 3. I wanted it to be Shane Zylstra. That's just my selfish reasons. And that's okay. I don't dislike Parker. I think Parker's a good football player. But he's going to be used in a variety of different ways. Look for him to be a special team guy at the worst. And then, you know, some blocking, stuff like that. But he's going to be a guy that, you know, that this team just loves. Like a guy like Campbell and Holmes and Ben Johnson. They love that. But that's a new addition. Now, O-linemen, they brought 10 in. 10 on the roster as of now. Start with the tackles. Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Dan Skipper, Colby Sorsdal, and rookie Giovanni Manu, the 4th-round pick out of University of BC. No surprise here whatsoever. Sorsdal, I really liked him coming out of college. Went to a smaller school. It's his 2nd year now. I think he was fighting for that swing tackle position. I think he lost out to Skipper. Skipper's a little bit banged up right now. I don't think he's an IR candidate. Some of these guys are IR candidates as well too, injured reserve. But Sorsdal, you know, he had an up and down preseason. He had a good camp, up and down preseason. Had a better game his last game against the Steelers. He's going to be a guy that, you know, that could come in for Skipper every now and then. But I still think Skipper is that next guy in line to come off the bench as an O-lineman. Kind of like, you know, you have 5 O-linemen. He's the 6th O-lineman who can play tackle, play guard in a pinch. Sorsdal can do that too. But Skipper's pretty much your offensive tackle, your swing tackle, guard in a pinch, whatever you want to do. And Manu is still learning the game. But I'm glad he made the team too, because I thought he was a little bit up and down too, but he played better down the stretch and had a decent camp. He struggled. Don't get me wrong, Dan Campbell let the world know too that he struggled, but that's going to happen. Then let's go to the interior O-linemen: Frank Ragnall, Graham Glasgow, Kemet Zeitler, all starters. Coyote Awasika, who was up and down from the practice squad last year too, played good in a pinch in some games. Michael Neese, kind of a newcomer. He was on the team last year in the practice squad. Now he's up on the 53. Good for him. He can play center and he can play guard as well. And then the NFI list, non-football injury list, is Christian Mahogany, the rookie out of Boston College, 6th-round pick. Got that illness. He's slowly coming back. Just got back into the building. He's out doing some things. He's not fully practicing though. Don't know what his illness was, so don't ask. I've heard a variety of different things. I've heard 2 things really though, but I'm not going to say what they were because I don't want to start any rumors, and you know what I mean. I just don't want to be that guy. But he is the guy that's slowly coming around, and hopefully he can be in that depth chart of O-linemen, guards anyways. Now on to the defense. Duck to the defense. Defensive linemen, let's talk about the tackles first. They brought in 9 guys, or kept 9 on the roster. Aleem McNeil, obviously. DJ Reader, which is a really good sign. It doesn't look like he's going to miss any time. He might even be ready for the LA game. But I don't think they're IRing him because he would be 4 games. There's a chance he could miss the Rams game, but Campbell's not leaving it totally off the table. He could play. I'm hearing probably 2nd game, but DJ Reader is not IR'd at the moment. I don't think he will be. Then Levi and Ruzarike, and then rookie Mekhi Wingo out of LSU. Onwuzurike and Mekhi Wingo are guys that can actually play some defensive end as well too, and the Lions have been experimenting with that. And Wingo, you know, he didn't put up impressive stats during the preseason, but he created some pressure. He did some things that way. And Levi didn't really play much at all in preseason, if any. I don't think he even dressed. So they got big plans for him this year. And obviously Reader McNeil didn't play either. And then the ends, Aiden Hutchinson, he's the dog. 15+ sacks incoming. All-Pro. It's coming this year for Hutch. Marcus Davenport, probably going to be your other starter on the opposite end. Joshua Pascal. James Houston. I'm glad they kept James Houston. There was talks about possibly letting him go. I think it would have been a mistake. I do like James Houston. He needs to regain that form he had in his rookie year, though. And this now or never for him. He's not a starter. I don't think he's a starter. He's a situational pass rusher. He's a one-trick pony, and I think that's okay. That's not a bad thing. He's not the only one-trick pony in the NFL. There's a lot of them. And James Houston, one thing he can do, he can get to the quarterback. I know he's been banged up. He got hurt in his 2nd year. The linebacker experiment, it's all over. You moved him back to rush end. They told him one thing, pin your ears back, go get the quarterback. That's what he does best. And it looked like he got a little bit healthier. That she kind of showed in that Pittsburgh game. I know he was going up against, you know, the 3rd, 4th string guys, 2nd string guys, whatever. But he showed some juice, and I'm glad for that. Now, John Kaminsky on the 53. That's going to change. He's going to go on the IR, but it's not the end of the season IR. He's probably going to be back by December, maybe. But he will be back on the roster. I mean, back on the roster, a possibility by December, early, mid, late, whatever. Playoffs, whatever. But Kaminsky won't be on this 53 much longer. I don't think they've made that assumption yet, or made that move. Sorry, wow. Now, linebackers. Interesting. They got 6 now. They did sign one today. I'll talk about him in a second. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. Now, I know Malcolm Rodriguez is a little bit banged up right now. Hasn't practiced, hasn't played, hasn't done a lot in about a month, it feels like. I don't think he's an IR candidate, but keep an eye on it. It looks like he's back. Jalen Reeves-Maben, who is a fantastic special teamer and a good cover linebacker. And then Ben Neiman, a guy that they brought along, that they signed a month or 2 ago, whatever it was, who's kind of been around the NFL. Not old or anything like that, but he's played on the Chiefs, he's played on a couple of teams, maybe even the Titans. And he made the squad. I think Ben Neiman is a good player. He can do a lot of different things, play the run, he can cover, he can blitz, he's a special teamer. You know, he does a lot of things. You're not going to want him starting, but he can get the job done in a pinch. Now they signed linebacker Trevor Nowaski, played in Saginaw. If you guys recognize that name, Brad Holmes brought him in last year as a UDFA, an undrafted free agent. He got poached by the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals released him. Holmes brought him back. Signed him to the practice squad. But I think he's on the 53-man roster now. So things are still getting all worked out. But I'm pretty sure, because we had 52 on the roster, I'm sure he's our 53rd. But don't quote me on it, but I think he is. But he's on the team anyways. Even if he's on the practice squad, he's on the team. So that's possible. That's 7 linebackers that they brought back. 7. That's not including some of the other practice squad guys that they brought back. We'll talk about them in a minute. Now, DBs. We'll go to the corners first. 6 back. Carlton Davis, newcomer. He's a newcomer, obviously played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for his career. Carlton Davis the third. Rookie corner, Terrion Arnold. Rookie corner, Enos Rakestraw Jr. Another newcomer, Amik Robertson, played for the Raiders. And Khalil Dorsey and Kendall Vildor. I like this secondary. It is completely revamped. Everybody is new. Everybody is new in this secondary except for Dorsey and Vildor. They were here last year. And Vildor and Dorsey, you know, God bless those guys. But you don't want those two guys starting. You don't want those two guys starting, but they play special teams. They have some value. They're the fourth, fifth, sixth corners off the bench. You don't want these guys playing. Carlo Davis, Arnold, Rick Straw, Meek Robinson are all going to get big-time playing time at the corner position, that slot and outside. I'm liking this secondary a lot, even with the safeties. Now let's talk about the safeties. Brought 5 of them. Brian Branch getting moved from nickel. Looks like he's going to be full-time safety with his partner, Kirby Joseph. Brandon Joseph, a guy that I like a lot, made the squad, which I'm very happy. And rookie on UDFA, Lawrence Strickland. I was a little bit of a head scratcher with this guy, but he was making plays during camp, during these preseason games. If you kept an eye on him, he was making plays. I thought he was for sure going to be a practice squad guy, but he made the 53. Now that could be because guys like Ife Melifonwu, who is on the 53 as of right now, could be a possible IR candidate. I don't know what his injury is. Dan Campbell came out and goes, don't really know when we're going to get him back. We don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but he doesn't think it's that serious. So you're not really telling me anything there, Dan. You're not really telling me anything. You're not telling anybody nothing. You kind of said 3 different things there. Like, you know, you don't know when he's coming back. You don't know anytime soon. But that's fine. Melifonwu, there could be a chance that he goes on the IR. And I think that's another big reason why they brought back Lawrence Strickland. And it's not just by default. I'm not saying Strickland's here by default, but you got to kind of look at the big picture. We could be losing Melifonwu for maybe 4 games. There's a possibility. So there's going to be spots opening up if guys go on IR, obviously. You guys know that. But good for Lawrence Strickland. He was making plays. He's a guy that I thought was going to come back to the practice squad. Good for Lawrence Strickland. The special teams brought back 3 guys. Jack Fox, all-world punter. Jake Bates, big leg, but not too accurate sometimes, especially the short ones. Got to get better there. And then Hogan Hatton, who beat out Scott Daly. I think his name's Scott Daly for our long snapping position. And I think Daly got picked up by the Bears. I think they claimed him off waivers. And I didn't say too. Ty Summers, another linebacker that played really well for us, and that was another head scratcher that played really well for us in the summer. In these preseason games, Ty Summers, who's been in the Green Bay, the Saints, Giants picked him up. He might have been a Giant before too at one point, but he's been around a little bit. He's not super old, but he's been around a little bit, and now he's a New York Giant. They claimed him. So a couple of our guys got claimed. So that's it, guys, for the actual 53. It seems to be filled out, subject to change. Things are going to be going on, so just be prepared for it. Now, the practice squad. And a lot of guys that I'm happy that came back. Very, very happy. Okay? Linebacker Mitchell Agude. I'm very glad he came back. I was kind of a little bit worried about him. I know they really, they waived him, blah, 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 this and that. I'm glad he's back on the team. Center, Kingsley Agwakin, a guy that's back on the team. I thought that he played good enough to make the team. It felt like he did, but obviously we're not coaches here. I'm never pretend to be a coach, but I thought, hearing the reports and watching him play, I thought he was going to make the team, but that just goes you that we got some really good depth. But he's going to learn on that team. He's going to learn, and he's going to be a part of this future, Kingsley Agwakin. You heard it here first. Quarterback, Jake Fromm. They brought back him instead of Sudfeld. Okay, good for that. Fromm's going to be a guy that's going to learn. You don't want Fromm being your quarterback one or anything like that. I'd rather have Hooker in there than Jake Fromm. Fromm came in late. It's good for him. He's on a practice squad. Let him sit there and let him develop. Let him learn. Okay? Running back Jamar Jefferson, that's a guy that played well at the end of the preseason. Got 2 touchdowns versus the Steelers. He's got some juice to him. He's on that, he's that running back. He's that 5th, 6th running back on the practice squad. Wide receiver Tom Kennedy lives on the practice squad. Back back again. Tom Kennedy, everybody loves him. Everybody hates him. It's one of those fan favorite guys. You know, I made a video a long time ago about Tom Kennedy. It was kind of a joke, you know, about how he's so in and out of the practice squad, back and forth. He's just one of those guys, man, just a hard worker. Jack, I think the Dan Campbell saying he wishes he was 6'4". You know, it's just one of those guys that has so much heart, and he's got talent. He's just not big enough, and he's just not good enough to stick on a roster because of his size. That's just the way it is. And they're looking for particular guys. Tight end James Mitchell, a 5th round pick, who's almost been a failure here. He literally got 1 foot on the bubble, right out of the bubble. He's a guy that, you know, got beat up by Parker Hess. So he's going to be a guy that's going to really need to develop. He's going to need to really show that he belongs. He could not be a Lion next year. Safety CJ Moore, a good special team safety, a good guy. You know, he had that suspension. You're making that stupid bets about football. He's back in the mix. He's a practice squad guy. Defensive lineman, defensive tackle Moore, Pat O'Connor. You know, played on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We drafted him years ago. If he sounds familiar, it's like a 7th round pick that we took. He is back on the practice squad. And then I'll talk about these 2 wide receivers. I'll talk about these 3 wide receivers at the end. I remind myself. Defensive lineman, nose tackle Kyle Pecco. He was taking team 1 defense snaps all through camp. You know, with Reeder being out, kind of taking over Broderick Martin. Broderick Martin, if you know, is on IR now. He's going to miss the first 4. Hopefully not much more. He needs to develop. But he's back on the practice squad too. I thought he was going to make the team, but he could be a guy that gets elevated. He could be a guy that gets elevated because he was playing pretty well in camp. Never suited up at all during preseason. So he could be a guy that I think is going to suit up week to week. Until Reeder is completely healthy, then he could be a guy that is either, you know, pushed down a total pull or just back to the practice squad. Who knows? The defensive lineman Chris Smith, a guy that's kind of been around for a couple of years now, out of Notre Dame. You know, he's depth. That's all he is. The defensive end Isaac Ukwu, who had a very good camp and a very good preseason, had 3-4 sacks, looked the part. You know, he's doing it against, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th string guys, but he was still getting the job done. I thought he was going to be a guy that's going to make the roster too as well. But you got to remember, man, he was brought in as UDFA as well. You know, sometimes I forget too as well, but he's a guy that's going to be on our practice roster, practice squad. So he's a guy maybe look up to game days. Who knows if he gets called up. And then tight end Shane Zylstra, one of my favorites. A hell of a wide receiver at college when he went to Minnesota. I believe it was Minnesota State. Turned into a tight end. He's a big wide receiver. Turned into a tight end. He's back on the team too. Kind of the guy that's been living on the practice squad for a couple years as well. Now let's talk about these 3 wide receivers. Now, I still might make a video on this. I probably will, so I won't get into crazy detail. But they signed wide receiver Tim Patrick, a guy that is 30 years old, 6'4", 215 pounds. Blew out his, I think an Achilles tear last year, an ACL tear the year before. He hasn't caught a pass since 2021. Okay? He's older. He's got some quicks to him. Ran like a 4.4, high 4.4s. That speed probably is kind of disappearing now with these injuries on his legs. But he's a guy that has shown promise in the past. Okay? Then they brought back Donovan Peoples-Jones, a guy that I thought was going to be on the 53-man roster as well. I thought he was going to be our 3 or 4. I did. I was wrong on that guy. I was wrong on Donovan, ex-Michigan guy. And I wasn't just loving him up because I'm a Michigan fan and he went to Michigan. I legitimately thought that this kid was going to have, a kind of a resurgence, if you will. I met him at the draft. He's a really nice guy, but being a nice guy doesn't mean nothing. But he was excited to be here. You know, he didn't have a good camp. He was too up and down. He didn't have a good preseason. Dropped some balls. He's a guy that's gonna, that's gonna try to learn on the practice squad. Could be a guy that gets called up. There's gonna be 2 of these wide receivers gonna get called up game. They're not carrying 4 wide receivers on game day. They just won't do it, especially when 2 of them play special teams in Isaiah Williams and Khalif Raymond. It's just not gonna happen. They're gonna call 1 or 2 of these guys up weekly, okay? But 2 of these guys won't want to be week-to-week practice squad guys. It's going to be Patrick and the other guy I'm going to talk about right now. What they brought in, which is kind of shocking, wide receiver Allen Robinson. Another old guy, 31 years old, who's kind of fell off a little bit. Talented still. He got drafted by the Jaguars, played on some really bad Jaguar teams. Was like their number 1, at worst number 2. Put up some good years with the Chicago Bears. I think his best season yet was like 100-something catches, 13-something 100 yards, something like that, double-digit touchdowns. He's done it. He's done it in the past. Played with the Jacksonville, like I said, Bears, LA Rams. Like he's been on a few different teams now. He's been on a few different teams. Just got cut by the Giants. So he's been a guy that's been around. He's not going to be a guy that's going to want to stick around. Like I said, I should be doing a separate video for these guys. I wrote out a video for Tim Patrick until I found out that we picked up Allen Robinson. So I'm like, oh, do I have to do 2 videos? Or should I just talk about these guys? But I'm just going to make it a little bit quick. We got 3 big-bodied wide receivers. Like I said, Patrick, 6'4", 210, 215. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6'2", 210. Allen Robinson, 6'3", 215, 220 pounds. Like we tried, like Dan Campbell begged. He begged for someone to step up and be that big body X that they were looking for. Nobody stepped up. Donovan Peoples-Jones didn't during practice or preseason. Therese Fountain didn't. Who else? There's a couple. Antoine Green suffered the concussion. We injury waived him. All 3 of those candidates didn't step up like they wanted. Now they brought 3 of them. 2 new ones and 1 familiar face in Donovan Peoples-Jones. So 1 or 2 of these guys are going to be called up weekly. But that's it, guys. That's your practice squad. That's your 53-man roster. Subject to change. Things can happen. As I'm talking, things could be going on right now. But there's going to be some IR candidates. There's going to be some guys that get dropped. Going to get guys that get elevated. Things are going to happen. But this is as close as it is going to get right now, and I just wanted to kind of talk about it. So thanks a lot, guys. It's a long video going on 28 minutes and change. I really appreciate it. You guys coming in and listening to me talk about our alliance. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell up top. Don't forget to like, comment, share this out. What do you guys think about the 53? What do you think about the practice squad? Thanks, guys. One grit, one pride. Let's go. Detroit versus everybody. Boom. Go Lions.